a couple times that reparations are owed to blacks for 400 years of slavery. Well, America was founded in 1787 and slavery ended in 1865. So that's substantially less than 400 years. It's also been mentioned that America has yet to atone for slavery. Well, remember that Lyndon Johnson launched the so-called War on Poverty in 1965. He specifically talked about the need to redress past grievances for blacks. Since then, we've spent over $22 trillion in payments to fight the so-called War on Poverty. Also, Mr. Cohen mentioned the wonderful story about Minnie Minoso. I remember Minnie Minoso. He's a great ball player. I'd like to give you a story, too, and conclude with this. I was in law school in 1974, 1975. I'm visiting my aunt who lives in Southfield, Michigan, right outside Detroit. And she and I are talking. The doorbell rings. A gentleman comes who's about 40 years old, a friend of my aunt's. And he came in, he sat down, as my aunt and I were talking. I was talking to my aunt about the classes I was taking, what I intended to do after I got out of law school. I looked up, and this 40-year-old black man was crying. I thought maybe I said something to offend him. I looked up and I said, "Excuse me, did I say something that bothered you?" He said, No. I just wanted to be a lawyer too. And I had the potential to do it. I didn't take responsibility. I got caught up in too much jackassery, and I blew my opportunity. I went to school with a lot of young Japanese kids, Korean kids, and Chinese kids. They all had something in common. They busted their butts in homework. You look at a graph of who does homework in America. Blacks are outdone by Hispanics, who are outdone by whites, who are outdone by Asians. There's a reason that Japanese Americans, Chinese Americans, and Korean Americans make more money per capita than do white Americans. They work hard, they don't complain, they take responsibility, and I would urge all of Americans to follow that example.
A few more things I didn't get a chance to say. Does Obama, whose father is from Kenya, an area of active slave trading back in the day, and his mom's family owned slaves, does Obama get a check or does he cut a check? What about Kamala Harris? Her father admitted that his family owned slaves. Her mother is from India. Does Kamala Harris cut a check or does she get a check? Here's another problem. Only about 5% of white people living today in America have any sort of generational connection to slavery. And I have another question. Why should anybody but Democrats pay anything? After all but a handful of slave owners were Democrats. 1860 rather, it's estimated that there were about 350,000 slave owners owning 4 million blacks. Of all of those slave owners, Dinesh D'Souza estimates that maybe 8 of them might have been Republicans. So why should anybody but Democrats, more specifically white Democrats, pay a dime? I am not a victim. The whole idea of reparations is insulting. As I said at the very beginning of the hearing, reparations could properly be described as the extraction of money from people who were never slave owners to be given to people who were never slaves. The whole thing is absolutely ridiculous. And on this issue about slavery making America wealthy, the great abolitionist Frederick Douglass, when he escaped from the plantation in Maryland and moved to Massachusetts, or fled to Massachusetts, I should say, he was shocked at how many black people were living better, in better conditions, had better houses than some of the slave owners in the South. He thought that in order for a people to become prosperous, slavery had to exist. A nation could not become wealthy, he thought, without slavery. Shockingly, slavery made the South, compared to the North, less wealthy. This is why the North beat the South in the Civil War. So, I'm Larry Elder, and we've got a country to say. I'll see you next time. Don't forget, LarryTube.com, because all of our platforms on Epic Times have been demonetized, which means we must be doing something right. If you want me live and unfiltered, please, LarryTube.com, on demand, LarryTube.com. I'll see you next time, because we've got a country to save.
Larry King passed away, goes to heaven. He's greeted by St. Peter at the gates. St. Peter says, "Welcome, Mr. King. It's great to have you here. I want to show you around, give you an idea of what's here. Maybe you can pick a place that you'd like to reside." King says, "I just have one question. Is Rush Limbaugh here?" No. He's got a lot of time yet, Mr. King. So St. Peter begins the tour. Larry King sees the various places, and they're just beyond anything we can imagine in terms of beauty. Finally gets to the biggest room of all with this giant throne. And over the throne is a flashing, beautiful, angelic neon sign that says Rush Limbaugh. And Larry King looks at St. Peter and says, I thought you said he wasn't here. He's not. This is God's room. He just thinks he's Rush Limbaugh.